Amir, thank you. I want to hear your perspective when we're talking about this latest security incident coming out of Hebron right now. It is happening during a time of increased sensitivity, a time where Hamas in the Gaza Strip is pushing for more of this violence in the West Bank. Have they been successful?
But in addition to what you just recounted, it cannot be a coincidence that this is the 30th anniversary of the massacre at the Cave of the Patriarchs by Baruch Goldstein, who killed 29 Palestinians, and this terrorist fired from a cemetery. Now, it's happened on a Purim, the Jewish festival, maybe not exactly according to the Muslim calendar. It happened in late February, and we are already in mid-March. But nevertheless, it seems as if after going to see the graves of some relatives or acquaintances, this particular person who looked as an Islamist, he was wearing traditional clothes, at least in the video that we saw. So when the investigation ends, while right now it is just an assumption, it seems quite certain that some connection will be found.
So it could have there's a bigger picture at play right now when we're talking about the most recent.
Indeed, 1994, the first major terror act by a Jew against Arabs after Oslo, and this later generated revenge terror acts by Hamas. This helped to derail the Oslo process.
So then it brings me back to my question: if Hamas is being successful in their attempts to incite violence in the area. We have seen different terror attacks happening throughout the day, but they've been pinpointed in small attacks. We haven't seen any large-scale uprisings.
Indeed. No, they have not been successful. Neither the Palestinians in the West Bank nor the Israeli Arabs or even those residing in East Jerusalem have risen to the challenge. The Hamas incitement fell on flat ears. So apparently the Israeli security forces, helped somewhat by the Palestinian security organizations, have been successful in averting those terror acts which have been plotted. 3,500 Palestinians have been detained. Only 1,500 of them were affiliated with Hamas, which means that even if Hamas was not part of this activity, there would still be a lot of terror brewing under the surface. But up to now, 95 to 98% of the plots have been foiled.
Amir, when we're looking at the situation that's happening in the West Bank right now, earlier in the week, the Palestinian Authority, President Mahmoud Abbas, did appoint Mohammed Mustafa as the new Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority. This also ties into, quote-unquote, the day after, possibly in Gaza, as we're talking about a reformed Palestinian Authority, so to say. But how does this play out currently in the West Bank? And we've heard from Hamas, they're not too thrilled with this new appointment.
Well, Hamas, of course, is not part of the Palestinian Authority. They have never recognized the regime, the rule of Mahmoud Abbas, even though they did take part in the last parliamentary elections and won them. They only got 42% of the vote back in 2006, but because of the system prevailing, they had a majority in the parliament, and therefore they formed a cabinet. So they are rivals to Mahmoud Abbas. They don't care about a reformed Palestinian Authority. They don't want them ruling over Gaza too, but it will, of course, not be up to them to decide. As long as Israel joins the international effort to revitalize the Palestinian Authority, and the appointment of Prime Minister Mustafa is a step in that direction, because he is considered to be part of a technocratic elite, much like Salam Fayyad, who used to be the first Prime Minister under President Abbas 20 years ago.
We mentioned Israel has to get behind this new reformed PA. However, it's not just the Palestinian Authority that can appoint new people, or even the United States that might want to see something. Israel has to be behind it as well, and so far we're not seeing the government get behind this idea.
That's true, and Prime Minister Netanyahu is adamant against it. However, yesterday we heard Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who is supposedly Netanyahu's senior partner in running the military campaign, come out in favor, relatively speaking, of the Fatah, which is the major part of the Palestinian Authority ruling Gaza, saying that this is the least worst option.
Well, we might not have plans for the quote-unquote day after the war. It seems like we could be closer to actually seeing plans for the current stage of the war, specifically the next operation into Rafah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu approved an IDF plan to operate in Rafah, evacuate the some 1.5 million Palestinians who are living there. But this is a complicated task and also comes with international pressure.
Yes, indeed. And we don't know what the plan is. And there's a difference between targeted, focused operations against Hamas leaders or releasing the hostages, rescuing them, and a major ground campaign. And it seems as if the plan proposed by the IDF High Command to the war cabinet would be put into a vault or into a fridge to be left there and then pulled out once conditions are ripe. They are not going to be ripe for the next several weeks. There are not enough forces for the IDF to execute any major plan, and there is no American approval of such a plan because there is no clause there which would convince the Americans that the civilian population would not be harmed and that humanitarian aid could flow through.